My first girlfriend dumped me on Valentine's Day. We're going to talk about it on today's podcast.
Hi, my name is Michael Johnson. I'm a ballroom dance professional, a life coach, and a peak performance expert. I'm part of a group of motivated people who are dedicated to attaining emotional mastery and unlocking our full potential. We've realized life is a dance. The ups and downs can spin you out of your mind, but it's time to take back control. It's time to become a lifer. We don't believe others are responsible for how we feel. In fact, we don't believe anyone can make us feel anything. We are a new breed of overachievers. Emotional mastery is our journey, and unlocking our full potential is the key. Welcome to the journey. We are lifers, and this is Magic for Life.
What's up, lifers? Michael Johnson here with the Magic for Life podcast, and I'm so glad you joined me today on this beautiful Valentine's Day, right? Well, some of you out there, you've heard, oh, I hate Valentine's Day, and oh, Valentine's Day this, and some people love it. Some people think it's the best day ever, but some people just don't like it. So I wanted to bring up something we've talked about in the past, and we live through our language, right? The quality of your communication is the quality of your life. And as we talk about communication, we have to realize that there's over 65,000 thoughts going through your mind all the time. Well, at least that's what researchers say. I have no way of proving that one way or the other, but they do brain scans and all that kind of stuff. So we'll let them do their thing that they're good at, and we'll trust them for right now. But it sounds reasonable, right? Over 65,000 thoughts in the day. Now, I would imagine that the mind is running the body, and it's running these stories. It's running these things that we do, and as it does that, it has to take reference to stuff that's happened to us before. Now, why would that be important? Because we take shortcuts. And so if you don't remember, maybe you haven't heard me talk about this, but we talk about distortion, deletion, and generalization. We do all of those three things. We distort things every day. We delete things every day, every minute, every second, right? And distort, delete, and we generalize every day. So what are all those? Well, we could dig into that another time, but the idea is simple. Let's take deletion for a second. We delete thousands, millions of things out of our world, out of our life every day so that we can survive in a better way. And we distort things all the time so that we can take shortcuts. It's all survival mechanisms that we have created as humans. We need to survive, and in order to survive, we've got to be able to distort things and analyze them and move on those things quicker. So when we are communicating to ourselves, oftentimes we use distortion, deletion, and generalization to be able to take in a lot of information or less information so that we don't go crazy, and be able to use it in the fastest way possible. Now, let's kick back to that story that I started off with, because I think when I said it, most of you probably went, oh, ouch, sucks to be you, right? Well, I remember it clearly. Oh, it's one of those things you don't forget, right? And I remember that I was so excited because I somehow convinced who I thought, and maybe it was just my imagination, was the most popular girl in school to be my girlfriend, right? And I was so excited. And I remember the time I was so excited. We were going to the school dance, and it was going to be the first time I ever got to go to a school dance with the girlfriend. And I remember going to all the school dances before that and seeing those other guys with their girlfriend, and I remember it was going to be amazing, right? And I've always been a bit of a hopeless romantic, and so I started to put together what I was going to do for Valentine's Day, right? Because it was a special day. You were supposed to treat your girl extra special on Valentine's Day. Maybe every day is good, right? But we got to the day, and I had planned, the candies and the flowers and all that stuff, right? And the dance was that day. And I remember, I mean, we do silly things as kids, right? Hindsight is 2020. And I remember specifically going to school, and I had the stuff in my backpack, and so I put it in my locker, and was so excited because I was going to give it to her right before, and I don't know what it was, but I must not have been able to see her until later in the day, right? Because I would have probably given it to her right away. Everybody was doing Valentine's Day stuff, right? And it was pretty simple. I went and put the stuff in my locker and went to class, and about midway through the day, uh, I I remember I was really good friends with her twin sister. So she had a twin sister, identical twins, although they had a very different look from each other. And uh, and I remember her twin sister coming up to me after class, in between classes, and she goes, "I have some bad news for you." And I was like, "Okay, what's the bad news, right?" And she goes, "Well, my sister's dumping you." And I was like, "Oh, wait, what do you mean she's dumping me?" "Yeah, she doesn't want to be your girlfriend anymore." And I was just like, she couldn't even tell me herself. I guess that's the thing you do when you're young in school, right? And and literally dumped me on Valentine's Day. And I remember thinking, but I have all this stuff for her, right? No note, I guess in the old days they would have given you a note, or it happened a bunch of times, but nothing. That was it. And I remember just being devastated and thinking, but you can't do this. Couldn't you have waited like one more day? Like, that was ruthless. And I was like, well, why? And she, there was no good reason. I don't remember any reason. Like, usually you would attach to a reason, right? But all of these things kind of came together. I remember going to the dance and being so embarrassed. And probably nobody realized it, because probably nobody really even realized that I was calling her my girlfriend, that, or otherwise, right? So so I did go to the dance. I don't know why I went to the dance. I like that was seems like one of those times when you go home. I think it's because I had bought a ticket, and my buddies were going, and so I ended up going anyway. And a bunch of people at the time went solo, so it wasn't like you couldn't go. But oh my gosh, talk about embarrassing. And I was so uh what would be the word? I was so self-conscious about it. And you know what? For years and years and years, Valentine's Day was like, oh, I hate it. I hate Valentine's Day. I hate Valentine's Day. And it was because, of course, I had attached this story to it. And for years, I had attached this story to it. Cut 25, 30 years later, and looking back at it in hindsight, it's easy to go back and look at that story. The story has lost its energy. It's now a funny story, right? Because I can tell it and everybody goes, "Oh, that's horrible. I can't believe she dumped you on Valentine's Day." But I've attached other things to it. And so you can actually go and attach other stories to it. So as I've grown up, incidentally, they always say time heals. Well, why does it heal? Well, because you lose the clarity of the memory, or you attach other things to the memory, or you change the size of the fish, right? When you caught the fish, it was this big. A year later, it was this big. 10 years later, it was this big, right? And oftentimes we do that with our stories. And so I want to encourage you to think about your stories. I mean, maybe you have a story about Valentine's Day. I'd love to hear it. So comment down below. If you're watching on YouTube, or even in iTunes, you can comment down below. I would love to hear your awesome Valentine story. I'm sure you guys have some that beat mine, I'm sure. But comment down below and let me read them, and let other people read them, because I think sometimes we think we're all by ourselves, but our stories sort of gear what we think about and what we feel. And so if you're here on Valentine's Day listening to this, and you're thinking, gosh, I hate Valentine's Day, stupid holiday, right? And blah, 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 blah. Well, I mean, you can take it for what it is. and realize that you created your own stories about it. You created your own either positive or negative stories. Some of you might have some really positive stories. And I want you to think about that and think about where those stories came from and whether you've made the fish bigger or whether you've actually shrunk it down. Now, for me, it was simple. My great grandmother, my grandmother, who was great, her birthday was on Valentine's. And so little by little, as I grew older, I came to celebrate her birthday on Valentine's Day. So to my grandmother, who's passed away, happy birthday. And it's become a different feeling for me. And so obviously that memory was overridden by a new memory and various others along the way. But, Valentine's Day comes, and now the first thing that comes to my mind is all the happy memories and the wonderful things that my grandmother brought to our world, right? And those are the new stories that I tell, the new stories that go through my head. I think of Valentine's Day and I think of her. And now I've added my children, and I have 3 girls, and Valentine's Day is usually a very special day for them. And in terms of, I try to make it special for them to get something from the first man that loved them, right? So what a great day for lots of different reasons. If you guys have any bad experiences, I'd love to hear about them. Please comment down below. And if you love the podcast, don't forget to like and subscribe, hit the notification bell down below. And let us know that you're loving the podcast. And if you have any topics that you'd love us to cover about emotions and things that have to do with emotions, remember, I'm the emotions guy. That's me, right? And I'd love to talk about them and bring up those tough subjects. But please comment down below, share the podcast, share the YouTube channel with somebody else, and that would help a lot, because we would love to get this information out to a lot of different people. So keep track today of the stories that you're telling yourself, and if you have interesting or bad story about Valentine's, maybe it's time to change it. Maybe it's time to let it go, and sometimes writing it down and realizing where that came from might help. So comment down below, write your story. I'd love to hear it, and everybody else would love to hear it too, because you're kind of safe, right? Nobody's going to judge you, but it is kind of nice to see when other people have had some of the same experiences as well. So anyway, without further ado, happy birthday to my late grandmother, Lucy Peralta. She was amazing. So really great day to celebrate her life and all the things that she taught me, and hopefully that I'm passing on to everybody else. And we'll see you on the next podcast. Take care. Bye-bye.
Happiness is a choice. Sadness is a choice. All emotions are a choice. Sometimes doing our emotions doesn't seem like it's our choice, but it is. You have control. You are the captain of your ship, and you must learn how to be the best captain you can be. Let me show you how. Pick up your free copy of my new book, Every Minute, at everyminutebook.com.